Well, I want to welcome everyone. This is we're going to do this. I'm calling it Our Time Monday Update because we're going to hopefully post on Mondays.
Right.
That way, everyone can start to see what we've been doing.
Sure.
Get some more information about how we got to this point and why we're asking the community to fund a $10 million capital campaign to restore, repair, and preserve our beautiful church. So I thought this room would be fitting because I think this is where we began, at least when Father Eugene and I got here.
Yes.
This was the room we began in. And so I thought this would pay a good tribute to those early days of the 12 gathered around the table, maybe. A little bit more. I think they're 13 maybe. Yeah, but that's okay. Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm joined today with Alan Hoffman, who is the chair of the renovation committee, and obviously Father Eugene, the pastor of the greatest parish in southern Indiana. So,
hey, for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think we can say that.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get some of the jealousy there.
Sure. So, yeah, there's a lot of amazing work been done by a lot of people to get the project to this point. I'm really grateful for all the time and effort of a lot of people who have put in time here to get us to where we are today.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see. And maybe, Alan, you can probably address this better. How did we get here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Father Andrew and Father Eugene, for having me here today.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You are right. It has been a long time in coming. It started back in 2014, was when some things were identified. So it has been a journey.
Yeah, that's a long time. I think 8 years. Or 7 years. No, I did my math wrong. So, yeah, I'm a priest, not a mathematician, I guess. Yeah, 7 years ago, you started this process, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What happened 7 years ago?
Well, we started noticing some things with the church, some small things, and some things were starting to happen. And, I think, it's like Father Andrew told me. He says, just like anything, things age, he thought that I should know something about it. So thanks a lot, Father.
You're already done, yeah.
The Finance Commission asked a group of 4 of us to start looking into the various items and exploring what the building really needed, and to make sure it lasts for the next century and for the next generations. Yeah. We started by looking at the windows and the ceiling, and both, it was very evident that they needed some work, but we also identified some other very basic things that needed to be addressed. And it was concluded that at that point, the windows obviously were very bad shape and structurally, but the ceiling, we had some other issues, infrastructural type things, and to do the ceiling without addressing that was just not a good thing.
Yeah. So ultimately, the Finance Commission decided, we're going to do the windows first, and we're going to have to explore these kind of other things. And by the way, those windows turned out fantastic. I mean, they're amazing. So, yeah,
they really are amazing. This was really the first step in preserving the church for future generations.
Yeah. I think the windows were put in about the time we got here in 2019 when Father Merrill and Father Andrew and myself got here. And you're right, they really do look amazing.
Right. Yeah. The actual work began on the windows. The actual work on the windows, the repair and replacing the parts and all, the glass, started in 2018, and then the last window of 20, the 20th one, went back in July of 2019.
Yeah.
So it did take a very long time. It was a very meticulous process. We had to figure out, just the right glass, and Conrad Schmidt did an excellent job because they had trouble matching the glass, because of the age of it.
Yeah.
And then the research, and identifying and evaluating the contractors, who could really do this, who could really handle this restoration, vetting Conrad Schmidt eventually, and then the actual detailed evaluation. It probably took us 3 years to get to that point before a year and a half to actually restore them.
Yeah, I mean, you're entrusting 175-year-old windows to someone's hand. You want to make sure
that's very true.
Yeah, we didn't just here,
right.
Uncle Bob, used to clean windows for Memorial Hospital. He could do these, Yeah, that's great.
And we had some of those.
I'm trying. Okay, so we started with the windows, and I'm sure, after you kind of finished those, there was no more problems with the church. Everything was good. I mean, everything was structurally secure. We didn't need to find any other issues, right? I'm sure that's exactly how the conversation went. But,
Well, you are dreaming. But
okay, yeah. Story of my life. Yeah.
when we started, poking around, we really did discover a lot of basic things. And we actually had a professional facility assessment performed probably in 2017, which is really part of the requirements of the diocese, for this type of a project. And that report identified 15 immediate and short-term maintenance issues.
Okay. Wow.
It's got to be done. And so we were able to pay for all of those with the Stewards of God's Grace campaign. With the maintenance items plus the windows were all paid for by the Stewards of God's Grace campaign.
And this was all done before we got here, I presume. Yeah,
that's
great.
right.
Yeah, and I think, when Father Eugene and I got here, I don't know if Father Eugene want to talk about, a lot of work had been done.
Right. Yeah, I think in many ways, the parish and Father Trailer and Father Ray kind of set us up to succeed, because I think they were developing a strategic plan and a vision document and a lot of the things we needed to kind of hit the ground running when we got here. So that was a real blessing. So all those people, Father Bill and Father Ray and those on the strategic planning committee and others really kind of set us up to succeed. So we really appreciate all the work they did leading up to this point.
Yeah, and Alan, what kind of started that period of reflection? Why, I guess, to do wake up one morning and you just want a lot of extra work and want to get a lot of survey feedback, or what happened?
Well, it really has involved more than what you might think. But it was, in some ways, it was a perfect story, a perfect storm, maybe.
Yeah.
We knew that Father Ray and Father Trailer were going to be retiring, and we knew that the building needed some major work. I think the question, of the committee and the parish leadership was, what do we do to proclaim the gospel, for the next generation, and then how do we preserve the rich Catholic tradition and heritage and culture that is present today? And we felt that, the new pastor had to help us through that, and I think that's where Father Ray was. He thought, well, this is really as far as I would prefer to go.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think so. Thank goodness for Father, and he's really been a big support.
Well,
we appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, and thanks to Father Ray and Father Bill for setting the groundwork, and Alan and all the others who did the legwork, a lot of the hard work before we got here.
Yeah, and we called the capital campaign "Our Time." Can we talk about that title a little bit? Because I've heard that refrain kind of a lot in our meetings, and from Father Trailer and Father Ray, that it seems to feel like our time. So can you talk a little bit about where that came from, I guess? Well,
there had probably been several attempts over the years to really renovate the church in the past, but the timing just apparently just wasn't right. And then, as we really delved into it, it became a pretty big nut, so, but our committee and the Finance Commission agreed, and it felt different this time. And since we had a strong case for action, we'd done our homework.
Yeah.
We had a strong case. Basically, we felt it was time to essentially repair and restore and preserve, and it was our time.
Yeah.
That's it just kind of evolved that way.
Yeah, I remember early on, Father Eugene and I would be in meetings, and we would sit there, and he would say things like, "I really like being pastor here. I don't want to be run off." So there was some trepidation.
I do. I enjoyed my time here. There's a lot of things that are happening, and it seems like from right at the beginning, people were ready for new ideas and to make some changes. And like I say, the last group and the strategic plan and staff and others have really helped to set us up for work. So thanks to the staff and the strategic plan and others for their help.
Yeah. So. Now, Alan, what do you think changed? Why is this the right time? I mean, is there something you've noticed going on?
Well, I don't know for sure what really triggered it, but because it really has been a journey. Everything did feel right, and we talked about the gift that our ancestors gave us, and that we felt that it was our time to, because of the issues that had to be addressed. So And most people could see that, after we started looking at it and pointing it out and talking about it and communicating, they could see that, yes, there's a lot here. And it's been 60 years since anything major had been done.
Yes.
And that was kind of an eye-opener to it. So I think we thought it's time for us to step up.
Yeah.
And then we had done our homework, and our new pastor agreed and supported us, which obviously is a key.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like there was a lot of homework that was done. You can see some of the visible things that were going on. And maybe I think a little bit maybe technology kind of got to the point where like the sound and lighting systems could be looked at in a more serious way. I mean, it did kind of line up. But I talked a lot with Father Eugene about it. I felt like the process was really guided by God's providence. Like anytime we hit a roadblock, it felt like
Exactly.
God's providence would kind of open up a solution. I think it's great. Okay, so we've talked about our time. It's perfect. I love that name, and it feels right. So can we switch now from talking about our time to timelines? So see what I did there? I'm pretty clever, right?
You sure are.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the time. What does our timeline look like?
Okay. At this time, our committee is working with our architect and engineers and general contractor on the construction and bid documents phase. And we've got two phases, the exterior and the interior.
Okay.
And we have we actually go March the 10th, next Wednesday, to the Dawson Building Commission on our external component.
Okay.
And they will review the documents and then provide us input and support and say, hey, think about this, and then hopefully we'll be able to go. We actually have approval from the Dawson Finance Council to proceed because we have the money available to do that. And then we are also, within a month here, we're working on getting close to finalizing the construction bid documents for the internal phase. And so we go to the Dawson Building Commission at the end of April, and then we go to middle of April probably, and then if all goes well, we go to the Diocesan Finance Council.
Okay.
And of course, that's all contingent upon the capital campaign, but we think we're going to be okay there. We hope then to begin the actual exterior, so you'll see activity, things happening with covering, protecting the windows, and you'll see the lifts and that kind of thing, scaffolding going up around the tower in that May time period. And then, so that will be going on then. And then in end of August or 1st of September, we plan to close the church.
Okay.
So we'll still be working on the exterior. And then the interior and site work will begin then in that September time frame. We hope to then have the exterior complete by this winter, by Thanksgiving, because of the weather. And then also the next year, then through August of 2022, we expect to have the whole church complete.
Awesome. Yeah. And so it's going to the Dawson Building Commissions first. Now, Father Eugene, you've kind of pointed this out. Like, they're there to cross our T's, dot our I's.
Right. Yeah. They're there to make sure that everything that needs to be done is done and done in order and the right time, and everything is looked over so it's done right.
Yeah, and we're kind of lucky here. We've got a great committee going on, watching out for us. We've got a great architect who has worked in the diocese before. We also have Crimp Construction, which is a great company. Right there. From the parish, right?
Right.
Long history here. So we've gotten lucky, but other places maybe aren't as lucky. And so it's really nice to kind of have that there to kind of make sure hey, while we aren't too concerned, they got to be there because they got to worry about everyone, and I think that's really, really awesome. So,
right.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
That is absolutely correct. They have been great to work with. They have professionals on each one of those commissioned on that finance council, and they have been extremely helpful to us. I mean, we have relied on them to give us guidance on several things.
Yeah.
Something we didn't quite like, but we
Yeah.
And then, but they do have the best interest of the parish and the diocese in mind, at their heart. So
yeah. So we're going to start with the bell tower and the exterior work, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little more about that.
Well, we want to complete the whole outside before the cold weather hits. A couple of things. There actually the weather, of of course, the timing thing, the cost can be really impacted by delaying, through the winter time, the scaffolding up there, for a few six months. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, we're paying that. Yeah.
And then two, I understand that, as we retug point the whole exterior of the church, weather can have an impact on the coloration of the mortar.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, so it is important to hit this schedule.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think the goal is really to get the biggest bang for our buck out of the scaffolding work, and then make sure like that the mortar doesn't look like you did this one in December and this one, and kind of spread as much as possible. And I think another thing that you kind of brought to light, and this was happening kind of when we were showing up. I never would have thought this. About 2 years ago, we said we're going to shut the parish down at this time, so no weddings. I mean, I think that's a big deal. I mean, 2 years ago we had to start that, and so we got to make sure we kind of stick to this timeline.
Right.
Because I don't want to make that call to say, "Hey, you're going to have to cancel your wedding because we're just going to keep kicking those weddings down the road a little bit."
Yeah.
That's a very important part. A very important point. It is critical to hit this timeline. To get people back in church, obviously, and then I wouldn't dream about being a part of saying, "Hey, you can't have your wedding or whatever because of this," because these couples are preparing, and they have actually, they had a couple of years here to know about it, but they've changed their plans specifically forward. So we want to respect that.
Yeah, we're gonna have like a rush of weddings right before we close. That's not fair. Everyone's gonna get this first video and just gonna start proposing to their fiance.
Right.
We're gonna see. Awesome. So, well, great. So the timeline's set. The campaign's on the way. It's not like, I guess, what else? What else do we need to know right now?
Well, Father Andrew, it might be good if you could explain how everyone can learn about what is going on and keep abreast.
Yeah. So there's a couple of areas we're gonna have information on our website. So if you scroll to the bottom, there's gonna be a tile that says Our Time Capital Campaign. You can go there at stjosephjasper.org. Dan and his team of the Capital Campaign folks will be kind of trying to get information to everyone. We'll also kind of keep trying to post some videos like this. So share this video if you can. That way people can start to see it. And it's going to be on our YouTube page. In case you don't have Facebook, we'll have it on Facebook. So we're going to try to get as much information out. And then also there's boards now, right?
Yes,
We've gotten some boards. And I know I've seen a couple in the back of church.
Right.
There's some right when you walk into the parish center. So maybe take some time throughout the week to stop by, look at those boards, kind of see some of those. And we're going to go some deep diving into some of the things we're going to be doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan Fritsch and his team will be reaching out to you to ask for your help and also for your pledges. So we want to thank Dan for all his work. And I feel blessed with Dan and Alan and Father Andrew and all the people who are helping to make this campaign and this project possible. We are truly a blessed parish to have this leadership.
Yeah. Awesome. And, definitely prayers. I mean, I think that's like the biggest thing right now.
Sure.
Just keep praying, with the 2 Ps, pledge and pray. I think maybe it should be our mantras, because it's really God's work. It's His building, and we're just kind of stewards of this great place. So awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. I think next week, Alan and I and Father Eugene, if there's something doesn't come up, right, we're going to do a deep dive and to look at what are we going to do on the exterior. We're going to talk about some tuck pointing ideas. We'll maybe look at some pictures of the bell tower and also talk about the different things that are going to be happening on the outside next week. So does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Good. Wonderful. We'll see you all very soon, okay? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.